cooking this up in the lab for months now. Me and the production team have been going over this in extensive detail because I want to make sure we cover all of the bases, because this is vital. I've been doing a lot of reviews lately, and I've enjoyed these reviews. I really have. I find them very motivating to talk about a thing, to really dissect the elements of a certain system I like or dislike. This isn't a tier list. All of these can be good cameras. All of these can be usable cameras. All of these can be fun cameras. The beauty of film photography is so long as the shutter opens, the camera can be usable. The production team and I have done a good job of creating a ranking system that acknowledges that, but also will do a little bit more to highlight the elements of other cameras. Without further ado, let's crack into the rankings. So there are 4 categories. We wanted to keep it very simple to understand. There are, of course, a lot of different descriptors that each of the categories will have for the cameras put into them. So let's start off with the most controversial of the categories. That, of course, is trash. Now, when I say trash, I don't mean garbage. I just mean trash. Trashy. Trashy can be fun. Trashy can be good. These cameras are cheap, either in construction or in their dimension. They could be one-dimensional, very simple, easy to use. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of my favorite cameras are cheap trash, but I absolutely love them. But I'm also not blind to the fact that that's what they are. They could be fun cameras, they could be terrible cameras, they could break on you, or they could just work indefinitely, but only deliver singular results. Things that would fit in this category would be something like the Lomo Octomat, which is a terrible camera, but it can still deliver some fun, interesting results. The Zorky 10. I think that this is a fantastic place to put the Zorky 10 because not only is it a great camera, but it's also a terrible camera, all in the same go. Then, of course, the Olympus Pen EE, which I discussed recently. Super fun camera to shoot with, but due to your inability to select focus, shutter speed, you can kind of select aperture, but you can't really do anything else with it. It is so one-dimensional, but it still can be a lot of fun. Just because it's a trash camera doesn't mean it's a bad camera, it just means that it's a trash camera. Moving on to the next category, which is hopefully a little bit less controversial, that is the shelf camera. The shelf camera is an interesting position because, as you can tell behind me here, I have a shelf, and on this shelf reside some cameras. That's kind of because of one of 2 reasons. 1, the overflow of cameras that I own, and 2, I don't really have proper storage solutions for the film cameras themselves. So some of them end up on the shelf because free real estate over here, so just stack them up. But the shelf camera, it's going to be more of a camera that looks amazing on a shelf. You might be able to use it. It probably works great. Cameras like the Asahi Flex, I think, are perfect because it is a beautiful camera to look at. It works fairly well, but it's definitely not going to be my first grab when I'm going out the door and I need a camera. I would rather have many other systems before the Asahi Flex. There are very few cameras I'd want on the shelf more than the Asahi Flex. Other things such as like older folding cameras, Polaroid land camera up there, I think it's out of frame. I'm never going to get Polaroid peel apart film, but it does look kind of cool on a shelf. And then we have the next category, which is road trip camera. And this is more of a blanket term. It is a great camera to have with you, whether it be on a road trip, day trip, or just stepping out of the house for a couple hours. It might not be the only camera you have with you, but it's very close to being the only camera that you would need to have with you. The Bronica is a perfect road trip camera. It's not going to deliver the perfect results because there's the things like the light leak that are just going to happen whenever. It's also a very wide angle lens I have on there, so that has to take a very particular kind of picture. Another good road trip camera would be a PC35 AF. Of course, this is a point and shoot system, so you're not going to have control over all of the operations of it, but it's an easy thing to take with you, and it could serve as a secondary to a primary camera very nicely. But really the thing about the road trip is it's just a notch below this next category. But even at times, I think a road trip camera can elevate itself quite easily into the next category, which is the travel camera. I know what you're thinking. Travel, road trip, those sound like the same thing. And they kind of are, but they also kind of aren't. It's very similar to how every rectangle is a square, but not every square is a rectangle. And that the travel camera could be a road trip camera, but not always a road trip camera could be a travel camera. And what I mean by travel camera is, I mean, this could be the only camera that you would take with you on a trip. European vacation or going to Japan, and you can only bring one camera with you because you have to pack things like clothes so you don't get arrested. So I think that this category is going to be a little bit harder to quantify and harder to explain because my idea of a travel camera is likely going to be different than yours. With that being said, it's what makes this exercise all that more interesting and fun. It's the desert island kind of camera. You're lost, you wash up on the beach. What is the one camera you want to have with you in that moment? And for me, that could be something like the Nikon F3, the Pentax LX, even something like a Spotmatic or an OM1 could fit that bill. We'll have to go over this in more detail as time goes on, but the idea behind the travel camera is the simplicity of having one camera with you. What is that going to be? Those are the rankings. Maybe controversial, maybe offensive. Hopefully this adds a little bit more structure to future camera reviews and other videos on this channel. So share your thoughts down below on the rankings. I would love to hear what you have to say. Unless it's like very negative, then maybe don't share. Maybe keep that one to yourself. How about that? I'll catch you on the next one.